Two young models found dead in their downtown LA apartments. Their bodies discovered at two different locations just 48 hours apart. Police are trying to determine if the deaths are related.
Listen, I want some answers because my daughter is gone and it's not fair. I want everybody to find out who did this to her. She shouldn't be gone.
What if I told you there was a serial killer in Los Angeles hunting down beautiful black women who also happen to be models, and law enforcement at this point don't have a clue as to why, how, or who is doing it? They are not even sure that these deaths are even connected, but the families of both women want answers, and the obvious connections linking these two deaths has their families desperately searching for answers as the police remain tight-lipped about the investigation. But questions keep piling up because while Melissa Mooney, the second woman who was found dead in her apartment, was ruled a homicide by police, Nicole Coates, the first woman who was found just minutes away in her apartment, well, her death was only ruled as suspicious, which obviously caused the family of Nicole even more pain because now instead of at least knowing what happened to the daughter, forget who did it, they didn't even have that now. They weren't even left with that.
I just want to know what took her away from me. I just want to know if it was somebody that did something, somebody came into her apartment. You know, I want to know what happened.
According to the mother of Nicole and her aunt, this sounds outrageous because they were the ones who found Nicole's body. It was obvious that she had been murdered, and violently at that.
You feel there was some level of violence with this death?
Yes, I do.
You believe it was murder?
I believe it was. I really do. One of her legs was up in the air in a kicking position. That's not nobody that's just laid in their bed and died.
From what I seen in her bed, I screamed when I seen it because there was a lot of blood.
But that's not all, because it's just not the family of Nicole speaking out, but apparently other families are coming forward now with stories that are similar to theirs, and there may be more to this story than anyone could have imagined.
Since our story first aired, one mother said that she's been contacted by two other parents saying that their daughters were killed in downtown Los Angeles, and now they fear there could be a serial predator.
So what happened to Nicole and Miss Mooney, and what are the facts that we have now? And do you think that this is a serial killer targeting attractive black women, or a family grasping at straws due to the tragic and untimely death of their loved ones? Well, we are going to dive into it all because we don't judge here in the Church of Joe Stone. You know that. We are here so that you can, the viewer. So stay tuned. But before that, I am Joe Stone, and this is the Church of Joe Stone podcast, where we find the most shocking and provocative stories in the culture and take them to church. Now, I went over the fact that an aspiring model was found dead in her apartment by her family members, just days after another woman in that area was discovered under very similar circumstances. And police are saying that there's no evidence as of now linking the two crimes. But some sources close to the case believe a serial killer may be on the loose.
Two young models discovered dead in their luxury apartments in downtown Los Angeles just days apart. One case is considered a homicide. The other one right now is considered suspicious, undetermined. Are they related?
Now, Nicole, Nikki Coates, was a 32-year-old aspiring model who lived in downtown LA. On the Friday before her death, she told her friends that she was going on a date, which was the last time anyone heard from her. Her friends and family started getting worried because she wasn't answering phone calls or texts over the weekend. So her father, being a concerned parent, worried about what happened to her daughter who was supposed to go on a date and just stopped answering her phone. Her daughter and her father and her aunt went to her apartment on Grand Street to see if she was okay. But when they arrived, they made a shocking discovery that would change their lives forever. Now, they found Nikki dead in the apartment and immediately phoned police. According to her Aunt May, she immediately suspected foul play due to the condition she was in and the position of the body.
She answers like, it was just a little concerning. And my mom, she was just super worried.
The family's worst fears came true Tuesday. After they insisted on an in-person welfare check, police found Melissa's body. Her sister says her phone and computer were missing.
Her father, Guy Coates, also told the New York Post that they discovered her body in bed under recovering. Her arm was extended out, and when he touched it, he realized that it was severely swollen, like it was inflamed. Now stay tuned because all of this detail, while gruesome, is important as we go into the story and you try to understand why the family thinks something is fishy here. Now, when her father removed the cover to look at her face, he said that she had large bruises on her forehead, her lower lip looked busted, and In fact, her face was so bruised and swollen that the family was only able to identify her based on her tattoos. It's terrible. Now, this is where it gets even more mysterious because there was no signs of forced entry and her phone, laptop, and other valuables were still in the home, meaning that this wasn't a robbery and no one kicked in her door to make this happen. And if someone did do this, it had to be someone she knew or felt comfortable with to let into her home. Now, with all of that being said, this is where it gets twisted because the LA County Coroner's Office announced that the cause of death is deferred. Now, if you heard what I just heard, it sounds very strange, and that's what the family is saying. Now, to be fair, that only means that it needs further investigation and probably pending an autopsy, and the police are probably just being careful before they rule this a homicide, but the family seems convinced that there is a predator on the loose. Now, fast forward, and we see the tragic death of Nikki Coates bearing a striking resemblance to the recent murder of another aspiring model named Melissa Mooney, who also lived nearby in downtown Los Angeles, about 5 minutes away. And on September 12th, just 2 days after Nikki Coates was discovered, Melissa was also found dead in her apartment in Bunker Hill. And this also has some very strange details that make you scratch your head as far as what's going on in the actual investigation. See, Melissa was also an aspiring model and real estate agent who had just gotten a new job at a firm in Beverly Hills and recently moved into a new apartment, a high-rise luxury condominium, meaning that they got security cameras and guards at gates so that the people living there can feel safe, and also meaning that something should have been caught on camera. But let me get back to it. Just like Nikki, days before her body was discovered, her family grew concerned when she suddenly stopped answering texts or calls. So they conducted a welfare check and discovered her dead inside her luxury apartment. But the difference being here is that her phone and her computer were missing.
Because there ain't no way this should have happened. Not to my sister. Not someone as kind and as loving as she is, not someone who's so nurturing and making sure that everyone is okay.
Now, investigators determined that this situation was a homicide and that Melissa was murdered inside her apartment. However, the exact cause of death is still undetermined, which again is very strange here. Were there stab wounds? Were there gunshot wounds? Were there marks where she was choked? And I know the autopsy is paramount, and I do applaud the police for being careful in this investigation before they just say any old thing. But for the family, I can understand how these things could be beyond devastating, not understanding or knowing the details when it seems so obvious. But neighbors told police they saw Melissa come back to her apartment with friends on Thursday before she died. The friends eventually left, but she did not, which may have been the last time anyone saw her alive. So now police are investigating the two cases to determine if there is a link. But at this point, they're saying that there's no actual evidence to suggest that the deaths are related. But it seems like that's where it stops for them. Both of these women were black, aspiring models in their early 30s who lived alone downtown in Los Angeles. And they happened to be killed within 48 hours of each other and about 5 minutes away from each other. Nikki Coates' mother has been going on a campaign to figure out what's going on, to raise awareness about this case and to get answers as to what happened to her daughter. And she believes that there is a connection between the two deaths and said that she would not stop until she finds answers.
Her incident was 5 minutes away. They're both models. They're in the same age bracket. I'm just trying to piece everything together, but I still feel that something fishy is going on.
So whether this is just a tragic coincidence or the work of a deranged serial killer, it is still yet to be seen, but the families have made it clear that they will not rest until they find out what happened. And again, there are many things in this case that just don't seem to add up. And even though they both lived in very nice downtown apartments, Miss Mooney, for a fact, at least according to reports, her apartment had very robust security with guards at the gate, gated parking, cameras all around. It would be hard to believe that someone could go into that apartment, walk into that building, leave, and there not be some type of security footage that caught them doing that. And I would be surprised if the same thing wasn't true for Miss Nikki. And exactly how long does it take for us to get these autopsy results? Now, one theory I have seen is that maybe police are staying tight-lipped because there is a real connection here, but they don't want to give anything away. And maybe they're keeping all this information to themselves and crucial details about the case because there is something deeper going on here, and to let that information be known would be dangerous. Or is it more dangerous if this is happening and you think it could be happening and you don't say anything? Either way, this case has some interesting twists, and I'm not sure where I fall on it. Let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think that this is all some type of coincidence, or do you think that there is enough of a connection here to draw some real conclusions? And why is there so much mystery around how these women died, and what is taking the police so long to confirm certain details that should be kind of basic? Let us know what you think in the comments. But I am Joe Stone, and this is the Church of Joe Stone podcast. Where cool comes to pray, you come to stay and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss another video coming your way, where we find the most shocking and provocative news and take it to church. I will. See you in the next one.